Good afternoon and welcome back from our lunch break. I'm delighted to introduce Tamara Friedman playing the Fortepiano, and you'll say something about.
I will. I'm a little concerned about the dishwashing noise.
Oh, okay. I think it's going to be done in one moment, so maybe we'll wait for the cycle to finish. So perhaps you could use those few minutes to talk about the Fortepiano.
That's the thing about early instruments. They're softer. They don't compete with refrigerators and dishwashers.
And we're going to swap the order, so Tamara will begin with Haydn, and then I'll join her for a Mozart sonata.
I wanted to start with the Haydn because it's sort of a tragic, well, not sort of, it's a very tragic piece. And we wanted to send you away happy instead of tragic. So we'll start with a tragedy and finish with a happiness. And so there'll be plenty of time for questions afterwards, but just so you know sort of what you're hearing to begin with here. This is a piano because it has hammers rather than plectrum that pluck, so it's a striking instrument. And the hammers are very different from modern piano hammers. They're very tiny and they're covered with leather rather than felt. So the sound is much softer than a modern piano, but it's also much, as I like to say, it's pingier, it has more of a ping. And it's a little more colorful, especially through the different registers. You know, the modern piano, the big objective of the modern piano was homogeneity through the whole piano, so every note sounds the same as every other note, pretty much. And with the Fortepiano, every register had its own color, and that was part of the aesthetic. Other differences are, you can see how tiny it is. It's 5 octaves instead of 7.5. But everything that Haydn and Mozart wrote fits on this piano. And it's straight strung versus cross strung, like a modern piano is. And that also helps to preserve the different colors in the registers. The construction's much lighter. It's an all wooden instrument. There's no metal except for the tiny little parts and the tuning pins and strings, of course. But no bracing, no metal bracing. So so Henry and one other person actually could lift this piano and bring it here. Of course, they're both very strong, but still, there aren't many pianos you can move with 2 people. So, and I think that's probably enough for right now. Any other questions before we start? Okay. This is Haydn's last piece, by the way. So, and apparently he wrote this under the influence of the absence of a friend, and that the piece has something to do with his sadness at the absence of the friend, and then his happiness in other sections at the friend's arrival. But somehow you feel that it must be more than just a friend, because it's very, very sad when the friend's not there, and very happy when the friend is. Okay. Now for something happy. Thank you. So we're including a violin sonata on this day of keyboards because Mozart's violin sonatas were just a very important part of his keyboard output. There's plenty for the violin to do, but there was still a little bit of the idea that the violin was accompanying the piano rather than the other way around. And so it's just as virtuosic as the piano sonatas, and sometimes I like the violin sonatas better, actually. Sometimes I think they're a little more interesting sometimes than the piano sonatas. So we will give you a 296 written in 1778, which is just about the vintage of this. I mean, this piano is a modern replica, but it's a replica of something from about 1778. So it's a good, very good piano piece. So let me just find the piece. There we go. Okay. Any questions?
Questions about the Fortepiano?
You know, it's not so much a question, but it is very illuminating to me to have been told that, of course, the composers were composing on the instruments that we heard today, and today when we hear them played, that music played, it's not played usually on the instruments of that period. But my word, when I hear how the harmony, the tone of these two instruments together, it's just, I get it.
Good. Well, you can actually hear more because there aren't so many overtones. So you know, there's not so much mush to hear to listen through. Yeah.
And I think what Tamara was saying about the differentiation of the registers, I think, you know, on the modern piano, the aesthetic is to kind of iron everything out and have it all sound the same. And this sounds, there's more different kinds of qualities within each different register and sound.
Yeah.
So I think that there's more to kind of hang on to in a way. It's more,
There's a lot to
there's
play
more
with.
variety, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Could you talk about playing with the knee levers and how that's...
Oh, it's agony. I hate knee pedals because my knees don't reach them. So I always have to be it's a very carefully calibrated equation, the thing on the floor and what shoes I'm wearing. This Fortepiano has, it looks like it has two pedals, but they both do the same thing. They both just lift the dampers off the strings. A lot of Fortepianos have a mute pedal or a soft pedal that goes from 3 strings to 2 strings to 1 string. And as far as using the pedal, you know what, I suppose I probably err along with most pianists on this, using the pedal when maybe you don't always want to. You know, because you're having an insecure moment or something, so you feel, well, if I just blur the sound a little bit here, nobody will notice. that does happen. But for the most part, you know, I don't think that Mozart used the pedal very much. I think it was kind of like akin to the way they viewed vibrato at the time, more as an ornament, more as a special thing to do. And also just to color the sound as well. But there's already a lot of color to the sound, so. I try to use it sparingly, but I probably err on the side of using it too much. Let's put it that way. Yes. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Anyone else? Yes.
I can't see your knee pedals from where I was.
They're almost invisible. I can't even see them. I can only feel them. They're very discreet. They're just like little pieces of board right under here. And, you know, here's without. And there's
So
with.
was that something that came along with that time period in that?
Yes, they did. Yes.
So
They,
no one would make a piano with that again?
oh, now?
Mm.
I doubt it. No, I don't think so. I mean, it's not very comfortable. I think that, and they did start putting in foot pedals maybe around like 1820, something like that. Maybe even before that.
And why did that transition happen?
Probably because people were complaining about how uncomfortable knee pedals were. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's good. Yes. Yes.
It was nice to hear the violin resonance
Mhm.
with the fortepiano. And this is the first time in many years that I've been present to this, and how they blend. It was really a different experience,
Oh,
and
good.
very,
Thank you.
very pleasant.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was reminded of something earlier today. I almost broke in, but I didn't. It's something about, we were talking about performance styles. And, you know, it's not just playing on the instrument that makes it a classical performance. And what's so ironic is that when lay people or even professional musicians, professional modern musicians, think about early performance, they tend to think about it in terms of rules that you're supposed to follow. And it's really not about that at all. It's all of these rules, so-called rules, just evolved with because people sort of agreed that certain things sounded good. Certain things sounded well. So what sounds well becomes a rule. And one of the things that sounds well is not to play all the notes that have the same note value exactly the same. And I'd like to quote here from Malcolm Bilson, who's sort of the American godfather of the fortepiano. Malcolm Bilson said, in my company once, he said, 4/16 notes should never be equal. And what he meant by that was that each note, depending on its place in the group of notes, you know, depending on its metric position, how important it is in the melody, how important it is in the harmony, every note has its own length and its own stress, amount of stress. So that what they really thought of when you think about the rules of classical performance practice, it's not so much rules as in do this, do that, or do the other thing. It's more like do what you would do if you were speaking a line of poetry. You know, you would weigh each syllable. And that's how it is when you play one of these instruments. You weigh each note, you weigh each moment, each syllable. It's not like you're just playing forte or piano or staccato or legato. Every note is its own thing as far as duration and how much power you're putting into it. So it's really sort of a moment-by-moment creative process, and it's always feels like a work in progress. Anyone else? So the only rule is be expressive. That's the rule. That's the big 18th century performance practice rule. Okay, yes.
What do you feel like you've learned from playing on period instruments, music of that time, differently from, say, many people have learned them on a modern piano?
Oh, lots of things. you know, the thing that we mentioned before about the, you know, the colors, the different tone colors, how everything, you know, should sound, have its own aesthetic almost, you know, how long you hold it, how much stress you put down. And it is kind of that way on the modern piano too. It can be that way on the modern piano, but modern pianists are not usually trained that way. And people who play that way in competitions don't win. So I would say that what I learned, in fact, this is kind of interesting. Before I ever knew that a fortepiano existed, before I knew there was such a thing, I was actually searching for it as I played the modern piano. I remember I was playing a Haydn C minor sonata. It starts off like this. And all those releases that you have in there, I just felt so frustrated. I feel like I couldn't get the right release on a modern piano. If it was short enough, it sounded too dry. And if it didn't sound dry, then it was too long. It just did not have the right timbre. So in a way, it's almost like more than learning so much from the fortepiano. It was almost more like, oh, here it is. You know, I found it. I found what I've been looking for. And then, oh, of course, you know, there's a lot of things. The action on this is 1/5 the weight and 1/3 the depth of a modern piano. So it's extreme, like they say, as they say, the keys go down if you blow on them, practically, you know. And so control is easier on a modern piano because you have more resistance somehow to help you out a little bit. On this, it goes so fast and so it's just so easy. It's kind of like driving a Ferrari, you know. You really have to figure out how to control it yourself because the piano itself is. You know, if you play this, if you take a regular modern pianist and you have them play this and then something on the modern piano, you're probably going to prefer it on the modern piano because the instrument alone. Actually, I'll tell. One of my piano teachers tried a fortepiano once. She played a few notes. She said, "Ooh, it's a toy." So I think it can seem that way to people sometimes. But it's just, and you know, they're also different from one another. Modern pianos are also very different from one another, but I think fortepiano is even more so. So it's a constant learning experience. Yeah.
So earlier when we came in, I saw you at the piano playing, but not depressing the key.
Yeah, that's called air practicing.
Air practice. Right there.
Yeah. I do it in the air too, not even on the piano. I do it in bed at night. Because, you know, it's true. If you can feel something in your brain, if you can actually kind of have the sensation when you don't have the actual instrument there, but you can still feel it in your hands, it's a great source of security. It really makes you feel much better.
Wow.
It's not easy to do this, you know. It's really not. Yes.
Tell us about your museum in Le Conner.
Oh, okay. We have a little fortepiano museum in Le Conner. It's not an official thing. I mean, it's not a legal entity, but it is a significant collection of early pianos and other keyboards. So we have clavichords, harpsichord. We have a beautiful Lautenwerk, and quite a lot of pianos of this vintage and later, going from about late 1700s to the early 1900s. So if any of you would like to come visit our piano museum, let Tekla know. She knows how to get a hold of me, and we can arrange it. We usually like to have a group of people, and sometimes we have kids who are taking piano, and sometimes we have adults who either are taking piano or just, you know, would like an interesting outing. We have pianos from France, Germany, Austria. We have instruments from Italy. We have quite a lot of things, and it's a lot of fun. We have teachers in with their students, and my husband, George Bozarth, who is a musicologist, he lectures a little bit, and I demonstrate the pianos, and then we let the kids loose on them, and they play their pieces. They spend the time they're listening to us, they're supposed to be thinking about which piano they want to play their piece on. So then they play their piece, and then at the end we let them all play at the same time, and all the pianos are pitched differently. So it's just like this amazing cacophony. It's wonderful.
All in the same room?
Yeah. And it's funny that none of them seem to be aware that anyone else is playing. They're all just completely involved in their own thing.
How many instruments total?
I
Do
think
you
there's
know?
about 26 in the house now. Yeah.
Is
We
your
moved from
museum
Seattle to
very
LaConner
close?
because we couldn't find we kept going north to try to find a house that we could afford that would be big enough for all our pianos. That's how we ended up in LaConner.
Is your museum open by request?
Yes. Yes, it is. We don't have any regular hours. We just
Well, it says you also have pianos in Maine.
Actually, we just sold our house in Maine, sadly, so the pianos that were there are now here. Yeah. Yes.
If you would like to take a video tour of her collection, we
Yes.
have Western Early Keyboard Association on YouTube, and there are a couple of videos from our playing.
And Paul did them. Paul made those videos. That was a lot of fun.
And
Very
the
well,
stories
thank-
that go with each piece.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, Tamara. I think we'll wrap up now, and we have one more segment of this incredible day. We have the organ still.
Where is that?
It's going to be in the
Oh,
sanctuary.
great. Okay.
Yeah, so I guess maybe we could take one final question if anyone has a last question for Tamara. And if not, please refresh yourself, and we'll meet in the sanctuary.